Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Voiceover Casting Corner, episode 23, which is pretty crazy. We've been at this for a year and a half now. I am Kelly Moshinsky. I am the owner and head of casting here at The Voice Caster.
And I'm Catherine Horan. I'm Senior Casting Director here at The Voice Caster.
We have a super fun episode for you guys today. So first of all, we are talking about staying top of mind. So we're going to discuss your CRM, outreach, and etiquette for your outreach. We will be talking about some of the do's and don'ts because we see it pretty much every day around here. So we definitely want to share all of that with you guys.
Yeah. And kind of building on that, just the importance of organization. As an actor, you've got a lot of ducks you've got to keep in a row, keeping track of, who you've reached out to and when and things like that. So staying organized is always important. Learning, the do's and don'ts of when you do reach out to people, what is considered respectful, what is not respectful, and how to leave a lasting positive impression. So here are some tips and tricks to make a good impression with the people you're reaching out to.
Positive impression.
Yes.
That's the key right. We get lots of impressions, not always positive. Or some of them are and others aren't. So yeah, it's kind of figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So first of all, we're just going to talk a little bit about a CRM. So a CRM is essentially a customer or client relationship management tool. And as a voice actor, in any career really, but as a voice actor, you can use it to track who you've reached out to, who you've worked with, who you've auditioned for. It can help you, just remember companies, the contacts at those companies. You can make notes on, when to follow up with them so that when you last followed up with them. You can make notes on their preferences. I hear this a lot where a lot of people are like, oh, I know that VoiceCaster prefers this, but this other casting company prefers this. This is a perfect place to make all of those notes. And then you can keep track of things that you're booking or specs that you're seeing from these different sources, really keeping track of things. And there's a lot of different tools out there that you can use. Google Sheets is one of my favorites just because I feel like it's so versatile. It's standard and it can go with you. Notion is another one I have not personally used, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. And Trello is another option as well, which I have used for other kind of project management things. So there's a lot of resources out there, but essentially it's tracking who you know, how you met them, when you've reached out to them, when you need to reach out to them again, and any other details that you want to remember about them. Honestly, I use something like this as well to remember birthdays and things like that just add a little bit of that special touch when you want to, reach out to somebody for a reason.
Exactly. And there's a lot of good things that can come from keeping track of this stuff because, if it's been 6 months since you reached out to a certain casting house, maybe it's time to reach out again. And we've had a couple times, people do that and you're working on a casting and you're like, oh, that's right, this person would be great on this project. I'm glad they reached out, because we've got a lot of people that we work with. And, sometimes people do get lost in the shuffle a little bit, and we've got our own lists here of, people. And, sometimes if you're just scanning through, you might miss somebody or, sometimes you think about people in a certain way. And then they reach out to you with maybe a new demo or this thing they booked. And you're like, oh, I didn't know they could do that. Well, they'd be great on this. Let me throw them on this project too. So these are why you want to keep reaching out to people, even if you've taken a class with them or even if they're, we get people on our roster, it's always good to hear from people now and again, just to keep up to date with what's going on. But, if people sometimes reach out too much, or we've had lately just an influx of people requesting to get on our internal list that are already on our list. And it's like, wait a minute, why are you guys reaching out? You're already on it. So that's another reason you want to keep track of this stuff. So you're not reaching out to people that have already know who you are and make it sound like they don't know who you are, because it's like, well, wait, why are they reaching out in this way? It's, yeah, we've got you on our list. We sent you something a couple of weeks ago. Why are you trying to get on our list? So it helps you stay organized and helps you from kind of making those kind of faux pas.
Yeah. And it feels so generic when people send us their like submission email again. We're like, wait, first of all, do you not remember us? Do you not remember any auditions that you've gotten from us? And why are we, it's one thing to check in and be like, hey, just want to stay on your radar, but to fully submit to be on our roster when you're already on our roster is
it's a little strange.
Crazy. And that's been happening a lot lately. It's like, I'll get an email and, I'll send it on to Catherine, and Catherine would be like, this person's already on our list. And I'm like, I thought, man, I don't know.
Oh, wait, because they're on our list. We just sent them something.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is like some other people, it's like we're a little nicer than some others, but some other people might be like, oh, well, if you can't remember me, I'm not going to remember you, and just take you off of the list, instead of trying to add you a second time. So, it's just, you got to be careful making those mistakes.
You never know.
And then there's also the art of reaching out without being that person. There are good reasons to reach out. And I think that is important for you to, really recognize like, oh, okay, this person could benefit if I reach out when I update my demo, or when I update my website, or as a thank you for auditioning or booking, a holiday card, things like that. There are a lot of good reasons to reach out. So make sure you have a good reason to reach out, so that it's not just like a weekly email of you saying, hi, how are you? Hope you had a good weekend. And then that's it. Because we get those too. And we're like, okay, I don't have time to respond to all of these, so have that reason so that you're not just being that person.
And when you do reach out, there's a few do's and don'ts. Make sure your message is personalized. Don't just, dear sir, madam, or, dear business owner. Not that you would do that, but, make sure you know who you're sending it to and address it to them directly. Keep it brief and professional. We don't need to hear your life story, or, don't make it a long rambling message. Just short and sweet and to the point. Here's why I'm reaching out. Don't ask for feedback unless it's invited, because, if every actor that auditions, if they all asked for feedback, we'd spend all of our days just doing that. So unless there's a specific reason why you need feedback, or, unless, it kind of comes up in conversation, it's best not to do that. Assume that you sent it, we like what you did, and keep it at that. Don't do a mass email without VCCing.
That's the worst.
You never know who's, we've had that. I mean, we've made that mistake too in the past, and you don't want to give out people's email because you don't know who it's going to, or you don't know who these people know. It looks unprofessional as well, but you also don't want to make people mad when they're like, wait, why are they emailing all of these people too? Don't add us to your own personal newsletter without permission. We get that a lot. People just automatically add us, and suddenly I'm getting updates from actors, and I'm like, I don't even know who this person is. Why are they, no, it's just spam. It just junks up our inbox. So unless that's something we want to subscribe to, please don't add us to it. And then timing suggestions, like Kelly was just saying, don't email every week, letting us know what you've been up to. Every 3 to 6 months is perfectly fine. Even monthly could be a lot, especially if you don't have anything new to say. But, if you've got that new demo, oh, hey, I just booked this job, or, I've got this new website, stuff like that. We want to know that you're up to something new, that there's something that we should be checking out, or something that we want to update, in our notes for you, stuff like that. So make sure you include something as well when you're going to reach out. So it's not just this form letter of, hey, just wanted to say hi. It's like, okay. So yeah, give us a reason to read your email.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I see one of the comments, Heath said, no, no spam, no spam. Please
Please.
don't
I
put
get
us
so
on
many
your
already.
Forward this to 10 friends and you'll have good luck for 7 years. Please don't do that. We get enough spam as it is, and we just get a lot of emails that don't really need to come to us as well. So that's not saying don't reach out, but have a reason to reach out. There are proper ways to do it, that's for sure. All right. So just some professional etiquette that gets you remembered. So one of the biggest things is obviously we take note of certain things. There are certain emails that stand out for good reasons, and there are certain emails that stand out for not so good reasons. So, kind of along those same lines of do's and don'ts, it's one of the things that personally, that I notice is if somebody keeps it short and sweet. I am very appreciative of that because I only have so much time. I am more likely to read an email that is 2 sentences than 2 paragraphs. I might skim through it, but I might miss something. I am also, more likely to read an email that is also has a reason, like we were just saying, that there's a reason for me getting this, so that I'm not just reading this email going, why did I just waste 30 seconds of my day? I know 30 seconds doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're listening to 3 to 5 seconds of each person's audition, that's several auditions that I could have listened to and didn't have time for. So just having that reason. And another thing that I notice is when I get a lot of weird emails that either aren't addressed to me, they're just very general, and I'm like, did I need to be on this list? Is this like, what is this? If I'm looking at your email going, what is this? And why did this person send this to me? Then don't, just don't. I get emails sometimes. And again, this is getting added to newsletters that I don't want to be a part of, where it's like people are sending me recipes and people are telling me weird stories that have nothing to do with voiceover or their career or anything that is relevant to emailing me. So it's one of those things where it's like, we do notice, and it's like, I would rather have the short email that gets to the point than the email that is also filled with fluff and all the, hey, how are you? I'm doing great. This is what I've been up to, and blah, blah, and it just goes on and on and on. It's like, I like the personal touch, but keep it short and sweet.
And one email or one type of communication that stands out in a very positive way is sending a thank you after you book a job or after an audition. Some people do send those in as a physical mail, which is always cool because you don't get mail very often. But an email is perfectly adequate. And just something short like, hey, thank you so much for thinking of me. And it's just nice. It's just, it's respectful. It shows that they're appreciative of what we're doing, and we appreciate that they appreciate that, and it's just nice, especially if you book something. It's really nice to hear, the thank you. And that's a perfect excuse to reach out to somebody too, so whether it's a casting, a casting director, or casting house, or your agent or your manager, stuff like that. It's a great excuse to just kind of keep in check and say, hey, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And it'll put a smile on their face as well.
Yeah. And keep it simple in that regard. It's like, you don't have to
fancy.
Send us treat mail or something. It's like an email saying thank you is plenty. That's
totally, and we're going to remember that, that's going to help you stick out in our mind as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then I just want to touch on social media etiquette. So this is one of those things where it's, as you are posting things on social media, whether it's an audition, a booking, things like that. First of all, like, I love being tagged when your spot comes out, and like, you can share that with people once you have permission to do that and it's actually out, no NDA stuff. But I love when people tag me in it. Like, I'll share it on our socials as well, so it's like, I love that. When you tag me in things just so that I can see a spot that you did that I didn't have not your agent, I didn't cast it, I did, then it does gum up our social media. So it's like, don't tag us in things on your social media just to show us that. That would be a perfect email. Send me a link. That's fine. I'll check it out. But you don't have to tag us in things that we didn't work with you on. So, just making sure of that. And then, of course, just the general reminder, because I see it all the time, is on your social media, it is that balance of personal and professional. So it's just be very careful about oversharing, over commenting. It's like, and over commenting is kind of subjective. It's it's not necessarily volume of comments, it's more of what you're commenting, what you're saying. And it kind of goes along the lines of oversharing, because that happens a lot. At the same time, it's like, I like getting to know people through social media. It's fun when people comment on things, and it's like, we have something in common. Those are wonderful ways to connect, with casting, with your representation, with clients that you've worked with. That is fantastic. Now, if you get into the zone of TMI, things like that, then, watch out.
And then finally, wrapping this up a little bit, one thing that will get you remembered, but not for the right reasons, is handling rejection and things like that gracefully. So if you don't book the job, if you didn't get that audition, don't write about it on social media or write a nasty email, stuff like that. Just kind of be graceful. Keep it to yourself. We all want to book. We all get those projects that we wish we could get, and like, oh, I didn't get it. But
Mm-hmm.
take that moment. Breathe in and out and move on with your day. You don't need to write about it or, make a fuss or post something negative, because that's going to get you remembered for the wrong reasons. Kind of adjacent to that too is, people, when they audition for something and they keep asking, hey, did you cast that yet? Hey, did you cast that yet? That can also get a little obnoxious. If you book it, we'll let you know. Don't call us, we'll call you, as the old saying goes. So, don't get too hung up on the projects. Audition, do your best, but move on to the next, and don't get hung up on it.
Try to forget about it. It's like you're in a good place if you can audition for something, forget about it, and then you get put on a veil the next week and you're like, I don't really remember that. I need to go back and listen to it. But yeah, if you're constantly checking in with us, it's like we got 1,600 auditions on a project last week, and that's a lot. Could you imagine if all 1,600 people reached out to us to be like, hey, did they make a decision on this yet?
Yeah.
We'd go crazy. So please don't do that.
We'll let you know. I promise. If they want you, we will get in touch.
100%. Yep. Absolutely. All right. So one of the things that I want to challenge you to do is, if you don't already have a CRM system in place, start playing with that. Start putting something together, where you can start, keeping track. You might actually find you have a lot more connections than you realize as well. Go through past sent items in your email, check your contacts. If you're not tracking your auditions and bookings somehow, start at least thinking about that, so that you have that in place, so that you can start using that. And then, draft your outreach emails, get things ready. The biggest thing is building the relationships and not just building a contact list. I feel like a lot of people want to build up their email list so that people are getting their weekly or monthly newsletter. And it's like, no, nurture those relationships. Relationships are really the biggest thing. And let's be honest, especially in this day and age with, everything going on, it's all about human and human touch. And, it's really connecting with people. That's what we want. And that's what we see on our side as well. It's like, I would much rather, have the relationship with actors than, have that distance there.
So I guess just to kind of wrap it up, just remember it's a professional business in the situation. Of course, you want to get on our good side and have us think of you for every audition that we get in. But just remember, we're people. We've got a lot going on. So just, don't bombard us constantly, but do check in. We do like to hear from you. We do want to know what you're up to and what you've been doing. Just, every so often, not every week or every month. But yeah, but do please keep us up to date when you do get that new demo. When you do book that job, we love to hear that. We want to celebrate that with you. And, if it's a new demo, keep that on our files as well, just so we've got your most up-to-date information. So, just keep it friendly, keep it respectful. And we'll always remember you for the right reasons.
Yes, that's the goal, right? Awesome. All right, let's jump over to some questions and comments here. Oh, yes. So yeah, I see Lawrence said I use free HubSpot. I have heard of that one as well as a good CRM tool. So definitely something to look into. Thank you for that, Lawrence. And Annie said that's part of why I don't reply with thank you on every audition. I appreciate that because again, it's like
it thumbs up the works. Yeah.
If we're sending it to you directly, if you're on our internal roster, it is one of those things where it's like, if I got a thank you from every single person, it would be a lot. We are selective on who we send it to, but it's more emails. And then the problem with that too is then I start to miss the questions. If somebody has a question about something, it's like if I send out an email and we get 20 emails back, all just confirming, I might miss somebody's question in there. So yeah, I appreciate that, Annie. All right. There we go. All right. Do you guys have any questions for us while we're here? Let's see. Look into the comments here. Let's put Nora. Let's see. Why can I not pull it up? There we go. All right. Any feedback on the new Source Connect? It's not switched yet.
We're not using it here right now.
We're not even using it right now. Definitely have right now. It's true that a lot of engineers haven't even switched over, and if 3.9 as well. So it's like they can do both. I know a lot of actors who don't have both. I know a couple who only have for yet. So it kind of depends on the studio, depends on the engineer. But right now, no. It seems like everybody is still, even if they do have 4, they're still using 3.9 as well. So you should be fine. I wouldn't stress about, switching over just yet. And honestly, for a while, you're probably going to have both anyway. So it's like, even if you get 4, don't get rid of your 3.9 because it might.
Things like that always take a little while for everyone to roll out with the same software.
Yep. All right, Lawrence, how often do you request 60? We never request that many. That's crazy town. It's one of those things where, so most of the time it is a matter of like, we will send it out to select people on our internal roster, and then we will send it out to select agents or managers. And then from there, they submit to us. So here's the thing. I used to be a lot more specific and like, send me just your top 5 or your top 10 or, whatever. I don't limit it from the agents anymore. And the reason for that is because when we used to limit it to the agents and be like, just send me your top 5, I got the same 5 people every time. I wasn't getting new talent. Like we weren't able to hear anybody else. You know, it was like their top 5 bookers. Like they're gonna stay the top 5 bookers because they're the only ones getting submitted. So it's like, and all of our clients are like, we want new voices. We want to hear new voices. And of course we do too. And so I do leave it open. There are some projects where it's like the spec is, 20 to 60, any gender, any ethnicity, any, it's like everybody and their mother reads on it. So it's like, I will get 120 auditions just from one agent who had basically their whole roster read on it. I at least a little bit because they're pretty wide open. But it's kind of, we kind of deal with it so that we can inspect it. It was SAG. They were open to Taft-Hartley's. So, I would say on average, 400 and 600 per project. So definitely fewer. The 1,600 is definitely not requested on our end. But it is something that we get. And then when we go to submit to the client, usually we're submitting anywhere from 10 to 30 auditions. So whether we have 16 100 to choose 30, we are very selective in what actually makes it to the client. All right. Any other questions? Questions, comments, concerns? Well, we won't keep you guys on here too long. If you're listening or watching the replay, it's subscribe on YouTube. We have Spotify. We are on Apple. And as we drop an episode every last Friday of the month with an interview. We've got a great one coming up this month. Follow us on the socials and all that good stuff. And you'll be able to see who we have coming up, and
it'll be fun.
And so I'm excited to share all of that with you all. All right, then we'll sign off for today, and we will see you all
next. Bye, everyone.
month.